Imagine waking up tomorrow and downloading the fluency of an entirely new language by lunchtime.
Right, just instantly.
Yeah, exactly. Or like from the comfort of your living room, actually feeling the exact physical adrenaline rush and muscle tension of an Olympic skier mid-jump.
It sounds completely crazy.
It does. It sounds like a speculative science fiction novel.
Yeah.
But today, we aren't talking about fiction. We are jumping into a really specific, data-backed 10-year roadmap.
And it outlines the impending integration of advanced artificial intelligence and, well, Web 4.0 into our daily lives.
Right. And usually, when we try to map out the technological future for you on this deep dive, the map is just covered in warning signs.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like the conversation inevitably spirals into this dystopian territory where algorithms run amok and humanity is sidelined. But the roadmap we're analyzing today takes an entirely different trajectory.
It really does. It's so refreshing.
Yeah. We're looking at an ecosystem defined by 5 profoundly positive structural shifts that this technology is projected to bring to your life over the next decade.
And I think it's a refreshing framework because, let's be honest, fear is a very easy emotion to engineer.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when discussing abstract concepts like neural networks or decentralized data. What we need to establish right away is that the projection we are unpacking today isn't just like a hardware update.
Right. It's not about just getting a faster smartphone or something.
Exactly. We are looking at a total paradigm shift in how humanity manages information. We are transitioning from this historical baseline of data scarcity and guesswork into an era of perfect real-time information.
Which is huge.
It is. And the architecture of this roadmap is brilliant in its progression. We are going to explore this shift starting at the most intimate level, which is inside your own mind, and then watch how that evolution forces a change in your physical body, redefines your relationships, restructures global society, and ultimately reorganizes how we manage the planet itself.
Wow. So from the absolute micro to the planetary macro.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start right at the center of it all, which is the mind. The framework identifies this first fundamental shift as cognitive infinity.
I love that term.
Right. Because right now, your biggest limitations as a learner are just time and raw processing speed.
Yeah, it takes months of grueling repetition to learn to code.
Or years
Yeah.
to truly grasp a complex scientific field. So, okay, let's unpack this because the roadmap proposes that AI agents are going to step in and entirely shoulder that operational cognitive load.
They're going to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Right now, it feels like we use our brains as both the central processor and the graphics card.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. I mean, we're doing the logic, but we're also exhausting ourselves, rendering all the basic data, trying to memorize syntax, or searching for the right spreadsheet formula.
Right, the tedious stuff.
Exactly. This projection suggests AI will act as a dedicated external processor for your mind. It handles all that heavy, exhausting data rendering and retrieval in the background. But wait, I have to ask. If the AI is doing all the data sorting and basic learning for us, don't we risk, like, severe intellectual atrophy?
Well,
I mean, if relying on a calculator makes a person worse at mental math, wouldn't seamlessly offloading our cognitive load to an AI make us fundamentally lazier thinkers?
that is the immediate instinctual concern, right? If the machine handles the friction of thinking, what happens to the human intellect?
Yeah, we just turn to mush.
Not at all. The data modeling here points to a shift in the nature of our mental effort rather than a reduction of it. Think about the fundamental reason we learn.
Okay.
We don't learn just to be repositories of trivia.
Right.
We learn to create, to synthesize, to solve complex problems.
Right.
By stripping away the operational friction of rote memorization and manual data sorting, the technology forces an elevation of human cognition.
Okay, I see.
The roadmap explicitly categorizes this new state as a creative genius mode.
Yeah.
You aren't skipping the thinking process, you're just skipping the compiling process.
Oh, wow. So instead of spending, say, 3 years learning how to navigate the user interface of an architectural software, you just focus entirely on the design itself.
Precisely. The AI already speaks the language of the software flawlessly.
That's wild.
It is. Your cognitive energy is entirely reallocated to strategy, spatial imagination, and understanding how that building impacts the surrounding community.
So you just direct the AI to execute the structural math of your vision.
Exactly. We are moving from being bogged down as manual data processors to operating as pure strategists. The human mind becomes a pure engine for why and what if, while the AI handles the how.
But, I mean, There is a glaring, fatal flaw in this creative genius upgrade, right?
Whoa.
If we are running our brains like overclocked supercomputers, constantly strategizing and building, our current biological hardware is going to burn out.
Yes.
Like, a 150-year-old brilliant mind is completely useless if it's trapped in a failing 80-year-old biological system.
That's a very fair point.
So how does the technology scale our biology to actually match our cognition?
Well, the hardware must inevitably catch up to the software. A highly elevated cognitive state requires a biological vessel capable of sustaining that long-term output without degrading.
Which pulls us into the second phase of this roadmap, the shift to what is termed preventative life.
Right.
Because right now, our entire medical paradigm is reactive. You feel a lump, you go get a scan, you experience severe chest pain, you rush to the ER.
Yeah, we essentially wait until the biological house is engulfed in flames before we bother calling the fire department.
Exactly.
And medically speaking, by the time a symptom is loud enough for you to feel it, the underlying damage is already extensive.
Right.
The resulting interventions are usually drastic, highly invasive, and traumatic to the body.
But this 10-year projection details a massive pivot toward proactive medicine.
The total 180.
Yeah. We are talking about the normalization of continuous ambient body networks. The roadmap highlights scenarios where a non-invasive home sensor can spot the microscopic beginnings of a blocked artery.
Or detect a single cell's tendency to mutate into cancer years before a traditional medical event would ever occur.
So what does this all mean for our daily reality? We usually think of healthy living as this mysterious cocktail of having decent genetics, eating a Mediterranean diet, and basically hoping for the best.
Right, there's a massive element of biological luck.
So are you saying luck is just being systematically removed from the human health equation?
What's fascinating here is that the reliance on biological luck is exactly what is being engineered out.
Wow.
We are transitioning from a snapshot model of health where you get blood drawn once a year and just kind of hope it catches something, to a continuous high-definition video feed model of your biology. Health is no longer a game of genetic roulette. It becomes a rigorous standard of data management.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
How exactly are we getting a continuous video feed of our biology without being hooked up to machines all day?
Well, it happens passively.
Passively.
Yeah, through ambient biometrics and advanced metabolomics.
Okay, what does that look like?
So the smart mirror in your bathroom might use multispectral imaging to detect microscopic changes in blood flow beneath your skin.
No way.
Yes, which can indicate early cardiovascular stress. And your home plumbing systems will analyze your microbiome and metabolic waste on a daily basis.
That is insane.
We are also looking at the deployment of harmless microscopic sensors circulating in the bloodstream.
Inside us.
Exactly. They are programmed to bind to volatile organic compounds, which are the specific chemical signatures that cells emit when they are stressed or mutating long before a tumor actually physically forms.
So the AI is essentially running a 247 background diagnostic on your biological baseline.
Yes.
And it instantly course corrects on anomalies before they can mature into pathologies.
Right. And the profound implication of catching diseases at stage 0 isn't just that the average human lifespan will push well past a century.
There's more.
The core finding of this projection is that old age itself is fundamentally transformed. We will completely decouple chronological age from biological age.
So those added decades won't be spent in a state of fragile decline or managed care.
Exactly. They will be lived dynamically. You might be chronologically 120, but biologically, you maintain the cellular vibrancy and resilience of a 30-year-old.
That is, I mean, let's take a step back and look at the progression here.
Sure.
We have these creatively limitless minds, and they are housed within bulletproof, highly monitored biological systems.
Right.
But a lifespan of 150 years, lived at peak intelligence, could actually be a profoundly isolating experience if the way we connect with others remains stagnant.
Oh, longevity without deep, meaningful connection is a recipe for immense psychological distress.
Yeah.
If we are optimizing the mind and the body, we must optimize the emotional tissue that connects us to one another.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The third shift outlined in the framework tackles exactly this. It's the concept of radical empathy.
Radical empathy, yes.
Right now, if I want to understand a difficult situation you are going through, I am strictly an observer. I might watch a documentary about your life, or read an article, or listen to you describe it. I can feel sympathy, but there was always a wall of translation between your experience and my understanding.
Always.
But this roadmap suggests that through the maturation of the metaverse and the haptic internet, we won't just watch what others experience. We will physically, viscerally feel it.
We are crossing the threshold from observation to experience transfer.
Experience transfer.
Yeah. And to understand how radical this is, we have to look at the mechanism of the haptic internet.
Okay.
We aren't just talking about a vibrating video game controller here.
Right.
We are talking about smart fabrics woven with micro actuators and eventual non-invasive neural interfaces that can intercept and mimic your nervous system's electrical signals.
Wait, meaning the technology can literally trick your brain into feeling the physical weight, the temperature, and the tactile texture of an environment thousands of miles away.
Yes. Imagine a master surgeon in Tokyo is performing a delicate microscopic procedure. A medical student in Buenos Aires wearing a haptic interface wouldn't just watch a video feed. They would literally feel the exact resistance of the tissue and the microscopic vibrations of the scalpel in their own hands in real time.
Oh, wow.
It completely overrides the observer effect.
The roadmap uses some mind-bending examples for this, too.
It does.
Beyond just professional skills, it points out that you could feel the physical fatigue and hardship of a laborer on the other side of the world.
Yes.
Or you could tap into the pure, visceral neurological rush an artist feels at the exact moment they crack a creative block.
It's incredible.
It is, because we generally think of screens and the internet as isolation chambers.
We do.
We assume technology numbs us or traps us in ideological echo chambers where we only interact with people who validate our existing worldview. But experience transfer sounds like the ultimate anti-echo chamber machine.
It is a devastating tool against human bias.
How so?
Well, prejudice, at its biological and psychological core, is an information processing error caused by physical and emotional distance.
Okay, that makes sense.
It relies on the othering of people, reducing them to abstracts or two-dimensional stereotypes.
Right.
But your brain cannot easily hate, dismiss, or stereotype someone once you have viscerally felt their physical reality firing through your own nervous system.
Wow.
When technology removes that distance, empathy is no longer a conscious, taxing moral choice that you have to actively cultivate. It becomes an involuntary biological reflex.
So by forcing us out of our subjective bubbles and making us physically share the human experience, we could trigger a global empathy revolution.
Exactly.
But that creates a massive cascading effect, doesn't it? If empathy becomes a biological reflex, and you genuinely understand the daily reality of someone halfway across the globe, this severe inequality of how we distribute opportunity becomes glaringly, completely intolerable.
It does. Societal structures are built on the tolerance of inequality.
Yeah.
If you eradicate the emotional distance that allows us to ignore that inequality, the society must restructure itself.
Which brings us to the fourth major shift: egalitarian education and opportunity.
Right.
Let's be brutal about the reality of the world right now. Geography is largely destiny.
Sadly, yes.
The elite universities, the cutting-edge laboratories, the highest-paying tech jobs, they are hoarded in very specific, hyper-expensive global hubs.
Silicon Valley, London, New York.
Exactly. If you aren't born near them, and you can't afford the exorbitant cost to relocate, you are effectively locked out of the highest tiers of human progress.
But this roadmap argues that the integration of Web 4.0 and haptic environments completely obliterates the geographic barrier.
Obliterates it.
It does so through the deployment of perfect digital twins. These are highly accurate, real-time virtual replicas of physical spaces.
Right. So if a kid in a rural village wants to study advanced chemistry, they don't need a plane ticket to Cambridge.
Yeah, they don't.
They just put on a haptic interface and step into the digital twin of a top-tier university lab. And because of the haptic feedback we just talked about, they can mix volatile virtual chemicals, feel the heat of the reaction, and experience the physical resistance of the instruments just as accurately as the student physically standing in the brick-and-mortar building.
Exactly.
But I have to ask you, and honestly, I'm asking the listener to think about the massive economic implications of this too.
Okay.
If geography is no longer a physical barrier to entry, it completely shatters the monopoly that elite institutions have on human capital.
It does.
If a kid in a remote town has the exact same digital lab access and operational toolkit as a student at MIT, does the concept of a prestigious zip code essentially become economically worthless overnight?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the entire metric for evaluating human potential undergoes a profound metamorphosis.
Okay.
For centuries, success has been deeply entangled with your proximity to power centers and physical resources. The geographic premium was the ultimate gatekeeper.
Right. Where you were born was everything.
But when the laboratory, the boardroom, and the manufacturing floor are perfectly digitized and globally accessible with zero latency, that geographic premium collapses to zero.
Wow.
The roadmap asserts that in this incoming ecosystem, success will exclusively depend on one single metric: how creatively an individual leverages data and AI.
Oh. We are right back to that creative genius mode from the very beginning of the map.
Exactly.
If everyone has the same AI handling the data processing, the only differentiator is your imagination.
It creates a pure meritocracy of imagination. The tools of creation are democratized.
That's beautiful.
When billions of minds are no longer suppressed by their zip code, the amount of locked-away human potential we will unleash is staggering.
But I mean, unleashing billions of high-functioning, long-living creative geniuses onto the global stage creates an incredibly urgent practical problem.
It does indeed.
Which lands us at the fifth and final stop on this deep dive: the planet.
Right.
Because if we have a massively globalized, highly educated workforce, and everyone is living vibrant lives well past 100 years old, operating at peak creative output,
The biosphere is going to collapse.
yeah, we're going to need a planet that can actually support that level of human flourishing without buckling under the sheer weight of our resource consumption.
It is the ultimate bottleneck for this entire roadmap.
Right.
All of our cognitive upgrades and empathetic revolutions mean absolutely nothing if the ecological foundation supporting them degrades beyond repair.
And the framework addresses this head-on with the concept of a sustainable world.
It points out a hard, uncomfortable truth about our current setup.
Yeah, that our current global supply chain and energy grids operate on catastrophic levels of waste.
Catastrophic.
But that waste isn't necessarily driven by malice or intentional destruction. It's driven by a lack of information.
We simply cannot use data efficiently at a planetary scale.
Right. We guess how much food a region will need. We guess how much power a city will draw during a heat wave.
And because human reaction time is too slow and our data is fragmented, we're usually wrong.
So we drastically overproduce to compensate.
We build massive redundancies into our systems because we are literally operating in the dark.
But the AI integration, detailed in the roadmap, drops that operational waste to absolute zero through macro-level digital twins.
Yes.
We talked about digital twins for a chemistry lab, but the roadmap applies this to the entire physical world.
Everything.
We are talking about perfect, real-time digital replicas of entire megacities, millions of acres of agricultural lands, and vast interconnected energy grids.
It's a massive scale.
It makes me think of playing one of those massive city-building video games, you know?
Oh, yeah, like simulating a city.
Yeah. You were looking top-down, desperately trying to manually balance the water supply, the power grid, and the traffic flow.
And you can never keep up.
No. Because you are human, you are always lagging behind. A pipe bursts or a power plant overloads and you get brownouts. But in this 10-year projection, instead of a stressed-out human mayor, you have a predictive, omniscient AI balancing those meters flawlessly every single second.
And the mechanism making that possible is an incredibly dense network of IoT, Internet of Things, sensors.
Right.
Every water pipe, every solar panel, every shipping container, and every acre of soil is feeding real-time data back to the central AI.
Every single acre.
Every single one. The system knows exactly, down to the milliliter, how much water a specific field of wheat in Kansas needs at 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday based on current soil humidity and incoming weather patterns.
That is wild.
It dynamically optimizes a skyscraper's HVAC system, lowering the air conditioning in a specific conference room the exact second it detects clouds covering the sun.
Wow.
Or it routes power away from empty floors based on the ambient body heat of the people in the building.
That level of real-time reallocation is staggering. It means we aren't generating power or pumping water that just sits there unused.
Exactly. And this raises an important question about how we historically view environmentalism.
How so?
For decades, the dominant narrative has been that in order to save the planet, humanity must fundamentally shrink.
Right. Consume less, travel less.
Yes, lower our standard of living and essentially retreat to allow the Earth to heal. But the data outlines an entirely different trajectory.
Really?
By managing resources with absolute algorithmic perfection, we eliminate the waste that drives ecological destruction. The projection argues that we do not have to retreat. We can achieve widespread, sustainable abundance.
So the waste drops to zero, which means the planet can comfortably support human flourishing without being consumed to death.
Exactly.
What an incredible conceptual journey this roadmap lays out. Let's take a breath and retrace the path we've just explored.
It's been a lot of ground.
It really has. We started at the microscopic level, looking at how AI acts as an external processor for our minds, stripping away the friction of rote learning so we can operate as pure strategists in a creative genius mode.
Right. And from there, we established that those upgraded minds require highly resilient bodies. By transitioning to proactive medicine and ambient health sensors, we engineer biological luck out of the equation, ensuring our later decades are lived with immense biological vibrancy.
Which brought us to the necessity of connection. Using the haptic internet for experience transfer, we bypass the observer effect, allowing us to physically feel the reality of others.
Turning empathy into a biological reflex and potentially curing societal prejudice.
Yeah, and that radical empathy naturally dismantles the tolerance for inequality. Through digital twins, we saw the total collapse of the geographic premium.
Creating a global landscape where a prestigious zip code is completely irrelevant and opportunity is dictated strictly by creative merit.
And finally, we grounded all of that unleashed human potential in a sustainable biosphere, where planetary-scale AI perfectly balances our resource checkbook, eliminating waste and proving that humanity can thrive abundantly without destroying our home.
It's a powerful vision.
It really is. I really want to emphasize to you, the listener, that the framework we unpack today isn't some pipe dream set in the 22nd century.
No, not at all.
This is a highly calculated 10-year horizon. This convergence of AI, ambient biometrics, and haptic networks is rapidly approaching, and it is going to fundamentally redefine how you process information, how you treat your body, and how you value the people around you.
It is, without a doubt, a profoundly optimistic and entirely plausible vision of our immediate future.
Yeah.
But as we prepare to conclude, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the architecture of everything we've just discussed.
Okay, let's hear it.
If this roadmap executes perfectly, if AI handles all the operational friction of learning, if ambient sensors completely prevent disease before we can even feel it, if haptic networks perfect global empathy and equalize opportunity, and if algorithms perfectly manage the planet's resources without our intervention,
Right.
in a world entirely stripped of physical, intellectual, and societal friction, how will humanity define struggle? And without the traditional historical struggles of survival, resource acquisition, and overcoming disease, where will we find our deep, driving sense of purpose?
Oof. A world without friction. That is a beautiful but incredibly heavy question to walk away with.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We set out to look at a new map of the future, and I think we found one that trades those old warning signs for some truly expansive horizons.
Absolutely.
Stay curious out there, keep questioning the systems around you, and take some time today to imagine what your own personal creative genius mode is going to look like in the decade to come. We will catch you on the next deep dive.